Notice his name, J. Baruchel, or however you say it, equals 191. Just like Society of Jesus. And I guess before I made this blog post, just a few days before, I posted about the movie She's Out of My League and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Pittsburgh Penguins went on to win or whatever. But it was in this post in regards to John Glenn, and there was the Air Force investigated the incident involving John Glenn's remains. John Glenn's remains equals 91 in gematria, just like space, whatever. Also, it was the Defense Department inspectors, and that equals 312. Glenn in Sumerian gematria equals 312. And this whole article, Air Force investigates incident involving John Glenn's remains in gematria equals 312. And the interesting thing about 312, if you write it out, 312, it equals 91, just like space. Anyway, while I was typing up this post, I noticed that the film She's Out of My League is on, and I was kind of like typing up this post and kind of like reading through some other blogs and whatnot, and reading just what I always do. When I'm making a blog post, I start something, and then I research, while I'm doing it. And I was looking at Brother Berg's blog because he had talked about a bunch of stuff with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, Mario Lemieux, back-to-back championship programming and whatnot. And right as I was reading this blog, and then I looked up at the TV, and the movie She's Out of My League was on, that Jay Baruchel was in. But the minute that I was looking at that movie or whatever, he went on a date with her to the Pittsburgh Penguins game, and I was reading a blog post in regards to the Pittsburgh Penguins. So just once again, some weird stuff. I happen to look up at the TV, and it's connected to what I'm researching on my computer randomly. I've never in my life just figured I would turn on the movie She's Out of My League. It was just on the channel that was on. But I did notice She's Out of My League equals 217. Just like if you write out 312 the big way equals 217. When Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, it was on July 21st, 21/7. And if you go way back to last summer, I was talking about there was something significant because the NBA All-Star Week that was supposed to be held in Charlotte, where the team that Michael Jordan owns, it got moved because of the transgender bathroom law. And they told us this on July 21st. And Michael Jordan, born on February 17th, 2/17. And the NBA All-Star Week, I can't remember what it was, if it began on 2/17, or if that was the day that the NBA All-Star game was played this year. There was something in regards to that. A ton of 217, though. So interesting that 312 has a connection to 217. Interesting, too. I never even put it together until now. But on my blog, I wrote about how John Glenn was the first man to orbit the Earth on February 20th of 1962. February 20th. I wrote in here can be 20/2. And orbit the Earth equals 202. But how interesting. February 20th, that's the same day that Rihanna was born. Anyway, let's go back to this first post here. Eventually I'll get through it. The main movie that I think of this guy from is literally This Is the End, the one with Seth Rogen and whatever, basically whatever, the apocalypse comes and they don't get chosen to go to heaven right away and whatnot. And the interesting thing about that in regards to Rihanna is Rihanna dies in the very beginning of that movie, if you recall. Also, the movie has some interesting release dates. 63 or 6/3, a number that I've talked about in regards to the Jesuits. And if you watch my priest video, and also June 14th when it came out all over the United States, Donald Trump's, I believe that's his 68th birthday. Donald John Trump equals 68. Pope Francis equals 68 in Gematria. And remember, Donald Trump and Pope Francis, their birthdays are 6 months and 3 days apart. And this film also came out in 2013, which was the year that Pope Francis became the Pope. I also noted in regards to that movie, at the very end when they all go to heaven, they end up dancing with the Backstreet Boys and singing "Everybody," or whatever. Everybody equals 121, just like the word revelation. And this guy right here, he has a lot of connections to Revelation. His birthday is 4/9. Revelation, the small way, equals 49. Backstreet Boys even equal the same as NBA Finals, 165 and 213. This film came out on the 165th day of 2013. I wrote in here Donald Trump's 67th birthday. So yeah, I was right. It's not his 68th birthday, his 67th birthday. I was just doing a mental error there, but his 67th birthday, he was born in 46. That makes sense. The word revelation equals 67. This is the end in reverse reduced equals 67, just like Revelation with the V exception. And think about the Golden State Warriors who won the finals. Warriors equal 121. The NBA season began on the day that leaves 67 days in the year. They won 67 regular season games, just like in 2015 when they won the NBA Finals. They won 67 regular season games. So when I looked up this episode, I just typed in, I was trying to find this episode, and I found this article, Man-Seeking Woman Isn't Afraid to Piss Off God in its finale. And not only was it the season finale, but the show was canceled after this episode. But it was, the last episode was on the 67th day of 2017. So the end of this this TV show ended on the 67th day of this year. I also showed that it was the first link that came up in my big long search here. And funny that the first comment on this article, they talk about if it's going to be the end, having the last scene be a reverse of the first one of the series feels apt. You know, once again, how odd is that? Someone mentioning reverse. I've talked about for all year this year about how reverse has been something very special. Lucy, the whole reason that even made me even look this show up, equals 61, just like God in Jewish gematria, just like Jesus in reverse. And think about that Scarlett Johansson movie where, you know, she gets the drugs in her system and then she becomes God at the very end. Her name's Lucy. How interesting, you know? When you think about it and you see the gematria and you see what movies do, Lucifer in reverse gematria with the E exception also equals 61. Just pointing it out. Lucifer in standard gematria, Lucifer equals 74, Jesus equals 74, Muhammad equals 74. I mean, the list goes on. Cross, Messiah, Gospel, Joshua, Yeshua. They all equal 74. Just like our nation's independence, 7-4, and a whole bunch more. I also noted that in regards to 35 and Catholic and everything else, the word Satan equals 35, Baphomet equals 35, Beelzebub equals 35. And also, in that night, I kept trying to check ESPN, and they kept changing everything to Spanish. And I still don't know what the point of it is. It just makes me think of Christopher Columbus, whatever. But it could be a completely different reason. I just want to show what it was doing. But everything was in Spanish for some weird reason. Every time I would click on it, you'd go to the NBA, and then it would take it to Spanish every single time. And I have no clue what the purpose of that was. It's pretty distorted. I have a new little flat screen TV hooked up. I didn't change the resolution very well, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just wanted to show you that. Like, for some reason it kept changing my ESPN.com into Spanish, and I have no clue why it was doing that. But anyway, let's get on with the story. Man, I need to go to bed. But so I noticed this stuff. I noticed this Jeff Van Gundy thing. It's one of the first things I notice in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, and I make a blog post about it, and then I wake up and I see this article about Rihanna being the star of the NBA Finals, or of Game 1, and I even did make a mistake in regards to what he said in the last post, but it makes even more sense with what she really said. I don't know about this, but Rihanna just walked in front of me. And that equals 213, just like the NBA Finals. And then, of course, Rihanna just walked in front of me equals 326, the big Gabriel thing I was talking about. And I started thinking more about the man-seeking woman episode and what it would truly mean. And that episode was titled Horse. And clear back in 2014, I was talking a lot about Rihanna and how she was connected to Neptune, and that was after the Super Bowl in 2014. We had the death of Philip Seymour Hoffman. Neptune is the god of he's the equivalent to Poseidon, the god of the sea, the god of earthquakes, and also the lover of horses or whatever. And then Philip means a guy who takes care of horses. There was a bunch of stuff in regards to horse symbolism, and it was connected to the god, or the planet Neptune. And I also talked a bunch about the number 88 in regards to it. There just seemed to be lots of 88 popping up. And actually, it wasn't just 88. It was a lot to do with just the number 8 in general. It was 8, 88, and 888 that I noticed a lot of patterns. There was even a media article about Rihanna, and they had 8 people that had to do her hair. Like, just the weirdest stuff. Why? And that's how I really got into gematria, when I noticed a lot of patterns in regards to numbers and things that didn't make any sense in the stories. Like, you'd read a CNN article and they would tell you the size of something that made no sense. They would say the football field was, this specific place was 321 square feet. And I would think, what does that even matter to what the story is even talking about? And then you started seeing it all the time. And then eventually I discovered gematria, and holy cow, you started to figure out exactly why they were talking about that in these stories, I mean, it would, just a made up example. The article would say that some guy killed 27 people, and then in gematria, when you put his name in, his name, of course, equals 27. And it's been never ending ever since I've learned gematria. It's just like that every time. Or it's always synced up to their birthday if the media gives that to you. If it's a famous person, their death is always connected to their birthday or something that they're famous in, or something that the majority of people know that they are famous for. And all you have to do is plug in their name, find out the gematria, and I'm telling you, it's always connected. Somebody's name equals 50, they die 50 days after their birthday. I don't even know how many times I've documented it, It's just that ridiculous. But back on topic here, all of these 88s I was talking about with Rihanna, come to find out, now that I know reverse gematria, her real name, Robin Rihanna Fenty, equals 88. She was also born in the year 88. I even mentioned how she was from Barbados that's made up of 8 parishes